going on, guys? It's New York Prepper here, and today I just wanted to do a video about a SHTF sniper rifle build that I've been working on. And basically I'm going to discuss the theories behind having a sniper rifle or long-range precision rifle for SHTF, and I'm going to talk about the different theories behind why you would want to have one, and I'm going to discuss, the parts that I'm using and, what the goals are. So basically, this is something that I've been thinking about for a while. Having a long-range precision rifle for SHTF purposes, in my opinion, is very underrated, and it's an area of prepping that a lot of people, especially when you're thinking about firearms preps, a lot of people don't think about long-range capabilities, because they think that you're only going to need to shoot 100 or 200 yards max. There's no real reason to have a capability of shooting 500 yards or 1,000 yards or a mile. And to those people that think that it's really not necessary, I just wanted to kind of give you some things to think about. Well, SHTF, first of all, is not just about defending your home against looters and people like that. SHTF, you may have to also gather food and hunt, and frequently when you're hunting, you don't always have ideal shots. You may have to shoot beyond 200 yards. And another thing about having a precision rifle or sniper rifle for SHTF is that it's a good deterrence. If you have to deal with armed marauders or armed gangs that come through your area, and if there's a large amount of them, like a big group, having a long-range precision rifle, you can deter them and basically scare them away at a long distance, rather than having to confront them at shorter distances. Rather than waiting for them to get within 200 yards and having to get into a firefight with maybe 5 or 10 armed guys, you can deter them from a long distance away, from 800 yards away or even 500 yards away. You can shoot in their direction. And it's long been known that sniper rifles and long-range rifles are have been deployed successfully in many conflicts around the world by different countries, and it's common knowledge that nobody wants to deal with a sniper rifle. If there's a guy out there with a sniper rifle and he knows what he's doing, and he can shoot well at long ranges, nobody wants to be operating in that kind of an environment, knowing that there's a sniper out there with a 1,000-yard gun, being able to hit you from a kilometer away. Nobody wants to deal with that. So that's one thing that having a sniper rifle for SHTF, it can be an advantage, because it will let you confront or deter potential enemies at a longer distance, especially if you have groups of marauders or gang members, things like that, armed gangs. The last thing you want to do is get into a firefight with 10 guys that surround your house. And I don't care who you are, if you're a Navy SEAL, it really doesn't matter what your training is and what your background is. It's going to be very hard for you to take down 10 guys that surround you, and if they have also firearms, and they have a lot of firepower, it's going to be very hard for you to take them all out. So having a long-range precision rifle, rather than having to confront them at right in front of your house or right outside your house, you can go a lot further away, and you can overwatch your property, and you can overwatch your house, from, let's say, 800 yards or 1,000 yards, or even 500 yards away. You can overwatch your property, and if somebody comes in, you can start taking warning shots at them, and that will maybe enough to scare them away rather than having to actually confront them. And psychologically, if you're, let's say, an armed, marauder group, and you're going into someone's house, and all of a sudden you see bullets flying at you, and you see a couple of your guys, get hit, or, maybe even just bullets flying in your direction, and you don't know where it's coming from, that's going to make you think twice about staying there and about, robbing that house or whatever. You're going to want to escape from that area if you're the marauder. You're going to want to get away because, you have these bullets coming at you from different directions, and you can't triangulate the actual position of the shooter. And plus, if you have a precision rifle, you're going to have usually a caliber or a cartridge that can have a lot more killing power at a longer distance, so even if the marauders start shooting back at you, if, let's say, they have AKs or AR-15s that they stole or they found or they got on the black market, those AKs and AR-15s, they can shoot directly at you even if they saw the muzzle flash. And if you're 1,000 yards away, they're not going to be able to do damage to you. They're not going to be able to hit you from that distance with the AR or AK. There's just not enough kinetic energy. There's not enough velocity in those cartridges, 5.56 or 7.62 by 39. There's just not enough velocity. There's not enough kinetic energy to be able to, effectively kill at that distance. So even if they, were shooting directly at you from 1,000 yards, it's going to be almost impossible for them to actually make a hit on you. And meanwhile, you're going to be able to return fire from 800 yards away, and your bullets are going to have killing power at that distance, and theirs aren't. So you're going to be able to take them out, but they're not going to be able to take you out, so that's a huge advantage to a precision rifle in SHTF. And another thing too is, aside from, combat and stuff like that, having a precision rifle post SHTF is very good for hunting and, gathering food. If you're in SHTF, you may have to hunt for, larger game like, deer or elk, depending on what part of the country you live in. So, having something that can effectively, kill, a larger game animal, beyond 200-300 yards is a big advantage in my opinion. If you can take down an elk or a deer or something like that, in that size range, the medium game size range at 400 or 500 yards, that's a huge advantage, especially if you have the skills and the training to be able to make good hits at that distance. That's the critical thing, is you have to be able to make good hits. You don't want to wound an animal. So those are the two main benefits of a precision rifle for SHTF. Is you have your hunting capability at longer ranges, which is especially important if you live in an area where there's a lot of open terrain, like if you live in the West or if you live in like farm country, and you can have like clear shooting lanes that are at least 400 or 500 yards, then having something that can take down an animal at that distance is really advantageous. And then also just for combat purposes, like I mentioned, you're going to be able to engage marauders at a longer distance if you have to, and they're not going to be able to return fire and take you out because they're going to be using conventional small arms weapons, which are not designed for long distances. The cartridges are just not powerful enough. So, and you're going to be able to take them out, and also it's going to deter them, because they're going to have bullets flying at them in different directions, and they're just going to want to move on and find an easier target. So, and So moving ahead beyond ahead of the theories and moving into the specifics of my particular build that I'm working on now, I'm going to be. So the first thing that you have to do when you're deciding on an SHTF, sniper rifle is you want to think about what type of bullets and what type of cartridges you're going to want to use, and then build it from there. You're going to want to figure out more or less, what are the distances that you want your SHTF rifle to work at. Do you want to just be able to make good hits at 500 yards? Is 500 yards enough for you? Do you want to be able to penetrate light armor at 500 yards? Do you want to be able to take down a larger game animal like an elk or a moose at 500 yards? Or do you want to just be able to take down a deer or a soft target like that, which doesn't require a tremendous amount of kinetic energy or penetration? So you have to think about these things. What are your targets? What is your realistic ranges that you think you're going to be operating at? And then from there, you're going to want to pick at what kind of calibers you want to use and what kind of cartridges. And for me, it came down to a 30 caliber because I figured that I want to be able to make comfortable hits at least 1,000 yards and up to a mile, 3/4 of a mile around there. And I want to be able to hit at least 1,000 yards or 1 kilometer, and also I want something that's affordable too. So there's a lot of different cartridges out there. Like the most popular one for long range is a 338 Lapua, which is a military cartridge that was based off of a 416 Rigby. If you guys don't know what a 416 Rigby is, it's basically a safari caliber cartridge that was made for hunting the Big Five in Africa. So basically what the 338 Lapua is just a neck down 416 Rigby with some slight changes to the case. It was actually made by a Finnish company, the 338 Lapua. And so I've considered the 338 Lapua, and I've actually, my previous rifle for this particular role for a long range precision rifle, I had a 338 Lapua, but I actually sold it because it was too expensive to shoot and it's too exotic, and if we're talking about SHTF, you want something that you can easily find ammo for. You want to be able to easily scavenge ammo and reloading components. And a 338 Lapua is, to me, it's too exotic. It's, even though it's widely adopted by militaries around the world, including our military, for the average person, you're not going to be able to find 338 Lapua at your local gun shop or your local Walmart. Or your local sporting goods store. A 338 Lapua is a very specialized cartridge, and it's a very powerful and potent one, but it's very specialized. And if we're talking about SHTF, you want something that you can easily find bullets for, that you could easily find cases for. If you need to reload, you can easily find boxes of ammo for. So for me, that kind of cancels out the 338 Lapua. So I was thinking, what would be something that could give me similar performance to a 338 Lapua, but would also have the capability to be readily available at pretty much any gun store or any sporting goods store. Uses common bullets and common caliber. So this way, if I need to scavenge bullets and scavenge reloading components, I can easily do that in SHTF. And then obviously another thing to consider too is the cost of shooting the gun, because you're going to need to spend time practicing with it. And if you're going to be dedicated to becoming good at long range shooting, you're going to need to spend a lot of time on the range, shooting at 1,000 yards or even further. And in order to do that, you need to be able to afford all that time on the range. And if like for the 338 Lapua, you're looking at, you know, even if you reload for it, you're going to be looking at least $3 a bullet, you know, $3 a cartridge. So every time you pull the trigger, it's $3, you know, so it's a lot of money. And if you buy ammo that's off the shelf, you're looking at $5 a round. And to me, that's just, it's not that I couldn't afford it, but why would I want to spend that much money when I can get something for less and still have similar capabilities? You know, and like I said, the 338 Lapua, it is powerful and it's really effective, but it's very exotic. So if there's a SHTF situation, it's going to be hard to find, you know, bullets, you know, cases, and off-the-shelf ammo for it. So that led me, you know, back to the drawing board, and I started looking and thinking about other calibers, you know, what would be good. And then I considered the Remington Ultra Mags calibers, but the thing with those is that they're a little bit cheaper. So it'd be good to, you know, cheaper to practice with, but they're also very exotic. You know, the 300 Remington Ultra Mag and the 338 Remington Ultra Mag, you know, they're very exotic, you know, and if there's an SHTF situation, it's not going to be, you know, easy for me to just go down to my local store or, you know, local gun shop and try to find some 300 Remington Ultra Mag. It's just not, it's not very common, you know, unless you have a Cabela's nearby. You're not going to be able to find a 300 Remington Ultra Mag, you know, at your local gun store. It's possible, you know, some shops may stock it, but it's a more exotic caliber. And so that led me to think what would be something that would still give me similar performance as the 338 Lapua or the Remington Ultra Mags, but would be common, you know, not exotic, easy to find components for, easy to find bullets, easy to find off-the-shelf ammo, and still has a lot of power at 1,000 yards and has a long, effective killing range, you know, beyond 1,000 yards or up to a mile. And that led me to the tried and true 300 Win Mag. The 300 Win Mag, or 300 Winchester Magnum, is based off of a 375 H&H, Holland and Holland. That's what H&H stands for. The 375 H&H is also a safari caliber. It's used for the Big Five in Africa. It's considered the minimum acceptable caliber or cartridge for Africa. A lot of countries don't allow you to hunt unless you have a minimum of a .375 diameter bullet, and so for many people the 375 H&H is like an entry-level safari caliber. And basically all the 300 Win Mag is just a neck down 375 H&H, you know. So the 375 H&H, when I say neck down, it means that the neck, which is what the part that wraps around the bullet, is shorter. The diameter is smaller, so it can accept a 308 caliber bullet, which is what a 300 Win Mag is. A 300 Win Mag, it uses a 7.62 millimeter bullet, and those types of bullets are extremely common. You know, 7.62 millimeter is used by militaries, it's used by law enforcement. It's a very common bullet, so if we're talking about SHTF, I can easily scavenge bullets and you know, use them to reload my cases as long as I have powder and proper tools. You know, I can even pull bullets out of cartridges that I find. Let's say I find some 308 bullets, I can pull the bullets out and put them into mine and crimp it, and I'm good to go, you know. You know, the 300 Win Mag has a lot of power. It shoots around 4,000 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. So it has more power than a 12-gauge shotgun. And, you know, another thing about the 300 Win Mag that's another benefit over the 338 Lapua, to me, is that the recoil is a little bit more manageable. Not to say that the recoil is pleasant, but, you know, a 338 Lapua, you pretty much can't shoot it unless you have a muzzle device. you know, either a muzzle brake or a suppressor. You're not going to, I mean, you can shoot it if you want to, but it's not going to be pleasant, and it's going to be very difficult to make follow-up shots with that kind of recoil. So if we're talking about SHTF, you know, what you have to think about all the different possibilities. You know, if something happens to your muzzle device and you have a 338 Lapua, let's say the muzzle device gets chipped, you know, you bang it against a stone or a tree or something, and not a tree, but some hard surface, you know, because, you know, barrels on a precision rifle are long. So let's say you're moving around through an area and you bang the muzzle device against a stone and you break it, or you mess it up somehow. You know, you may have to remove that muzzle device now and shoot without the muzzle device. And if you have a 338 Lapua, the recoil is going to be so severe that you're not going to be able to shoot well. You pretty much need to have a muzzle brake to shoot it effectively. So the 300 Win Mag, the good thing about it is that it has a lot of power, and it's almost at the same power as a 338 Lapua, but it's just a little bit, you know, stepped down to the point where it's a lot of recoil, but it's still more manageable without a muzzle device. Obviously, I'm going to have a muzzle device on my 300 Win Mag, you know, but if, let's say, something happens to my muzzle device and I have to take it off, let's say the muzzle device gets compromised somehow and I need to shoot with the bare barrel, the 300 Win Mag is a lot more doable to shoot without a muzzle device than the 338 Lapua. It's going to have a lot of kick. It's going to have more, probably more kick than a 3.5 inch shell on a shotgun. You know, so it's still going to have a lot of kick, but it's going to be more manageable. It's going to be, you're going to be able to get off a few rounds with it, no problem. You know, it's going to kick, but you can do it. It's doable. And then another thing with the 300 Win Mag is that it's been around a long time. It's very common. You know, you could pretty much go into any store, you know, in pretty much any state, and you can find a 300 Win Mag, you know, box of ammo. And obviously, I already mentioned that it uses the very common 7.62 millimeter bullet. So, you know, you can easily find bullets for it and reload them if you need to. And you know, another thing, like, so that it's also very common. You can buy boxes of ammo. It's much more cheap to shoot than the 338 Lapua. You know, you can get a box of ammo, or, you know, reload it yourself for probably half the price of a 338 Lapua. So that's very attractive, you know, especially if we're talking about, you know, practicing with your weapon. You know, you need to practice with your SHTF weapons and be good with them, because otherwise when the time comes, you're not going to be ready, you know. So you need to practice, and long range shooting is one of those things that you need to practice a lot in order to get good. You know, it's always better to have something that's more affordable, and then also you can stockpile more ammo. You know, if my ammo is 50% less, like a 300 Win Mag is 50% cheaper than 338 Lapua, so I can stockpile double the amount of ammo that I could with the 338 Lapua, you know, so I can stockpile more ammo for the same price. So it's really just a no-brainer to me, and it still has plenty of killing power. You know, a 300 Win Mag has over, you know, 1,500 foot-pounds of energy at 1,000 meters or 1 kilometer. So basically that equates to the same power as a 44 Magnum with full power Magnum loads at point blank range, you know. So a 300 Win Mag will have the same kinetic energy as a 44 Magnum will at point blank range, but the 300 Win Mag will do that at 1,000 yards or greater. So that's something to think about. That's a lot of power, you know. That'll let you take down large animals if you have to at extreme distances, and it's also going to give you some penetration capabilities as well. You know, that, let's say, like, if you go further below a 300 Win Mag, like a 308 or something in that area, or 3006, you know, you're not going to have that same kinetic energy at beyond 500 yards. You know, you're not going to be able to punch through cover. You're not going to be able to punch through body armor. You're not going to be able to punch through large game animals. So that's where the 300 Win Mag shines. You know, it has that kinetic energy and penetration at extreme distances. You know, so it's really just a no-brainer to me. The 300 Win Mag, in my opinion, is probably one of the best calibers for an SHTF sniper rifle. And even as a hobby gun, you know, if SHTF doesn't happen, a 300 Win Mag is you know, you can still use it to hunt every year. If you go deer hunting or whatever, if you travel and you want to go hunting in the West and you want to hunt in open plains areas, you know, where you may have long distance shots, or if you want to hunt elk and you got to shoot, you know, elk at long distances across mountains, you know, the 300 Win Mag is perfect for that. So you know, aside from just SHTF, the 300 Win Mag has a lot of you know, potential, you know, for hunting, and then also for long range target shooting. You know, if you want to get into like 1,000-yard shooting matches or stuff like that, you know, the 300 Win Mag is plenty for that. You know, so it's a very versatile cartridge, and you know, in my opinion, it's going to be my choice for my SHTF sniper rifle. And you know, so moving on from cartridges, you know, so we discussed the cartridges, and you know, you have to figure out what distance you want to shoot at and what you need it to do. And in my opinion, like I said, you're going to need it for procuring food and also for defense. So you need to figure out what range you need to be hitting your targets at, and from there figure out what caliber and what cartridge. And then moving on from that, we're going to go into, you know, the actual action itself. And you know, for me, I've always liked controlled feed round actions, like Winchester Model 70, the Ruger M77, the Mosser 98. The CZ550, those are what's called a controlled round feed. And basically the way that works is that, and it's superior to like a Remington 700, because the Remington 700, it's a push feed. So when you're feeding the cartridge into the chamber, you know, there's nothing controlling the round as you're pushing the bolt into the chamber, as you're pushing the round. So here's a CZ550 action, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. But for my build, I went with the CZ550, and the reason why I went with the CZ is, first of all, it's a square bridge, double square bridge design. You can see what that means is it has square, it's milled square on the top here, which makes it good for using a scope base or rings. I don't have to do anything to it. If it's round on the top, then it's a little hard to mount a scope ring or a base to it. The CZ550 is extremely rugged. It's all steel. There's no plastic and no aluminum on this action at all, anywhere. This is 100% solid steel design. The magazine box is even steel. The magazine follower here, you know, and the spring, this is all metal. There's no plastic at all. 100% solid steel design. And that's what you want for an SHTF gun. You know, you want something that's not going to crack, it's not going to break. Because if you need something to protect your life, you want something that's reliable. And you know, the CZ550s are, you know, they're actually safari guns. Okay, so if you look at the action here, it says on the action, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it says Safari Classics, and here you can see the pressure rating. It's 4,300 bar, which is about 63,000 psi. And you know, so this action is built for safari guns. This is what they use for guys that go on safaris, and they're shooting very high power calibers like 458 lot, 458 Win Mag, 416 Rigby, things like that, 375 H&H. You know, so this action here is designed for high power and high pressure cartridges. So it's extremely rugged, and on top of that, it's built for dangerous game. So because it's built for dangerous game, it has to be very reliable, because when you're hunting dangerous game, you know, if you're hunting lion or Cape buffalo, things like that, you know, you want to make sure that your rifle is solid, because the last thing you want is if you know, if a lion is charging you, you don't want something to break in here, or, you know, one of your cartridges to jam when you're doing a follow-up shot. You know, let's say you're doing a follow-up and you're pulling the bolt back, you know, and you don't want to have a jam or something, especially if you're dealing with dangerous game. So, you know, these actions are built very rugged, and they're very affordable too, compared to like other actions out there for precision rifles like Surgeon or, you know, Deviant, some of these other companies. You know, this action only cost me like $500 or $600, and it's solid steel. There's no plastic. Everything is very rugged. You know, if you look at it, it's built like a tank. You know, you could feel in your hand it's heavy. This weighs like 3 pounds. And even like the magazine, it's all metal, and it holds a lot of cartridges. You know, the CZ actions. The CZ actions, they have a very big box, so they can hold a lot of bullets in there, a lot of cartridges, which is another advantage for SHTF. You know, you want to have a high capacity. You know, if you can only hold like 3 rounds, that's going to be an issue. You know, if you get into a firefight or something and you have to constantly reload. So this holds like this will hold like 5 300 Win Mag rounds. Plus 1 in the chamber, so you know, that's pretty good for a bolt action. And another thing too is I decided to go with a hinged floor plate. I'm not a big fan of detachable box magazines on a sniper rifle, just because a detachable box magazine, it has some downsides. First of all, you know, you can accidentally eject it, you know, which is bad. You know, if you're moving through a very brushy area and you accidentally hit the mag release, you know, you can release the box and it can fall on the ground. And then, you know, another thing too is it sticks out, you know, so a sniper rifle is already pretty large and clunky as it is, and if you have a big, you know, 10 or 20 round mag that sticks out, it just makes it a lot harder to move through tight spaces with it. It's going to get caught up on a lot of stuff. And then, you know, for SHTF, I want something reliable, and I want something that's bomb proof. And yeah, I'm not going to have a 10 or 20 round magazine, but I don't really think I'll need that. I'm not going to be in a tactical situation. I'm not planning to be like a tactical, you know, sniper or something where I'm going to be engaging, you know, platoons of people out there. You know, it's more for like occasional deterrence and hunting, so I don't need to have a huge magazine box. You know, the magazine box, you can also lose it. You know, if you lose your magazine, you're not going to have any way of feeding your rifle. It's going to turn into a single shot. So I'd rather have a box magazine that's built into it, you know, and I'm not going to have the same capacity as a magazine, but I'm going to know that I'm not going to have to worry about losing my magazines, you know, and having to keep spare magazines with me. As long as I have ammo, I can just feed the rifle. I don't have to worry about keeping mags on me. So it's much more reliable. Having a hinged floor plate and internal box magazine is much more reliable than having an external magazine that you can lose, or that you have to carry spare mags for, things like that, you know. So that's why I went with this action as well, because it doesn't have that external magazine, and it's a solid steel design. So, and then, you know, it also has the controlled feed. And if you guys, a lot of you guys may not be bolt action guys or sniper rifle people. There's a lot of people out there that are more AR-15 guys, but if you look at the bolt here, you can see there's this big claw on the side. This is the extractor claw. You know, you see this right here? This piece right there? That's the extractor claw. And what this does, is that it grabs the bottom of the cartridge when it pops up. So when you pull this out and you eject the cartridge, and when you go to push it in to feed the next cartridge, this extractor claw here, which you see it comes over the edge of the bolts where the bolt face is. It comes over the bolt face. This will grab the rim of the next cartridge and feed it positively into the chamber. So let's say, I'll give you an example, like, you know, if I'm cycling the bolt, I push it out, and then, you know, the previous cartridge will be ejected, the case, and then when I push this in, it's going to feed the next cartridge that pops out from the magazine here, and the claw is going to grab the rim of the cartridge, and it's going to control it the whole time. So let's say that's a very good thing to have in SHTF, or in a combat situation, or in a life-threatening situation, which is why this receiver has it, because it's made for safari guns. And you know, when you're in a safari, you have to make sure your follow-up shots are solid, and you know, you're not going to have any issues with jamming, because the last thing you want is to have a jammed second, you know, follow-up shot. So you know, when you're going to feed your next one, it's gonna control it the whole time. So if, let's say, I fall over, or you know, I don't have to worry about jamming. You know, if I tilt to one direction or I fall, I don't have to worry about something jamming in here. So it's gonna feed it positively in any condition, in any angle, versus like a Remington 700, it's not going to do that. Remington 700 is a push feed, so there's nothing guiding the cartridge into the chamber when you're cycling the ammunition from the magazine box, you know. So if, let's say, you tilt the gun to one side, the case could fall out, you know, or something like that. And then another thing too is that the extractor claw, it keeps holding the base of the cartridge the whole time, even after it's closed inside of the, if you look in here, when I lock up the bolt, you can see this extractor claw in there. It's still in there, and it keeps control of the case. So this will allow very positive extraction. So for example, if, let's say, I shoot a very high pressure cartridge and the case expands a lot, and it gets kind of stuck inside the chamber, by having this claw here, you know, it has a good solid purchase on the rim of the case. So when I go to eject, it's going to grab it and rip it out, no matter, you know, what happens in the chamber. If, let's say, if it's an overpressure round and the case expanded too much and it's really stuck inside the chamber, this is going to give you positive extraction no matter what happens with the cartridge, you know. So that gives you the reliability in having those good follow-up shots, and not having to worry about jams and things like that, because especially in a defensive scenario, if it's SHTF, you know, you want to have something that's very reliable. So, you know, that's why I went with the CZ550. It's a very underrated and underestimated action to build your precision rifle from. And it's very rugged. Like I said, it's got the Mauser extractor, the claw extractor. It's got a very big, you know, box magazine. You can hold 5 rounds, and you know, you can pretty much build any caliber sniper rifle off of a CZ550. You can build a 338 Lapua, you can build a 300 Win Mag, pretty much anything, you know. So it's very good. It has this simple two-stage safety. So you have safe and fire, you know, which is very simple. So when it's on safe, I can't cycle the bolt at all, it locks it. And when it's on fire, it releases the trigger, and I can pull the trigger, and it also releases the bolt, so I can cycle, you know, I can cycle the bolt. It also has a really good trigger right out of the factory. It has a, you know, I can adjust it down to three pounds from the factory, and it has a three-way adjustable trigger. I can adjust for the poundage. I can adjust for the take up, and I can adjust for the let off. You know, so there's a lot of adjustability in the trigger itself. You know, I can also, it has a set trigger too, so what you do is you push, you see how I can push the trigger forward? So what I can do is I can push the trigger forward and it locks the trigger, and then it's like only 1 pound. You know, the poundage is tremendously reduced. You know, what you do is you push the trigger forward and it snaps in place, and then they call that the set trigger, and that lowers the poundage to like 1 pound, and it literally just takes a feather and it'll go off. You know, so that's really good to have for a precision rifle, especially if you're making shots at like 1,000 yards. You know, you want to have a good solid trigger break. You know, you don't want to have a jerky trigger because then it's going to affect your accuracy. You know, so that set trigger is another positive, you know, plus, another advantage to the CZ550. So this is the center of my rifle will be built on this, and I just recently got my stock. I ordered a stock from Bell & Carlson, which is right here, and this stock is olive drab color, and it's got like this little black in it, spider web design. It's got a flat bottom here. See how it's flat? I think that's like 2.5 inches. So I can rest this on a rest of some sort. You know, if I'm shooting off of a bench or if I'm shooting prone, you know, you want to have this nice flat bottom so you can rest it on something, whether it's a window pane or if it's on you know, your backpack or a log, whatever. You know, if it's like an improvised rest, this flat surface, the wide flat surface, helps it stay upright so it doesn't twist left to right. You know, versus like a sporter stock. You know, it's more of like a V shape, so it can twist left and right. You know, versus here you got this nice flat bottom. So it sits positively on whatever you rest it, and it's not going to move too much left and right. It's not going to cant a lot, you know, so that flat bottom is really nice. This is, like I said, a Bell & Carlson stock, and it's specifically made for the CZ550. So this action is going to go into this, and you know, it's got an aluminum bedding block. You can see the recoil lug inlet right here. And it's got a full-length aluminum bedding block that goes all the way into the pistol grip. So it's really rigid. It's not going to flex. It doesn't flex at all. You know, if I try to bend it, it doesn't bend. There's no flex, which is you know, very good thing to have in a long-range rifle. You don't want to have a flexible stock, especially if you plan to free float. You know, which this will be free floated. And it's just a really good stock. I only paid like $300 for this, and you know, it's specifically made for the CZ550, so it's already inletted for it, so I don't have to do anything. Just drops right in, and you know, and then the next step will be, you know, putting the barrel on. I'm going to order a barrel. Well, actually, I already ordered a barrel from Krieger. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Krieger. Krieger makes one of the best precision barrels, and I'm going to order a Krieger barrel, and I'm going to have it assembled by GA Precision, which is one of the best precision gunsmiths. If you're going to do a custom rifle build, especially for long range, you want to make sure that you go to a really good gunsmith, because most gunsmiths, they're not, you know, trained, or they don't really know much about, you know, precision rifles. They usually have like a general knowledge of gunsmithing, but they're not, you know, specialists in sniper rifles and precision rifles. So you want to pick a good gunsmith so you know that they're going to do a good job. And you know, GA Precision is one of the best. They made a 300 Win Mag rifle for Chris Kyle, the American sniper. So they're really good, and their prices are good too for the work that they do. So that's pretty much it. You know, this was part one, and I'm going to update you guys as the build goes on. And you know, I'll make a video of me shooting it. You know, I'm going to go to, there's a range not far from where I live. There's like a 1,000-yard range, so probably in the springtime I'm going to take this out and you know, hopefully, you know, shoot this and it's all going to be put together already. And you know, maybe I'll teach you guys a little bit about long range shooting in the process. So you know, I'll do some instructional videos and stuff like that. You know, so I hope that you guys learned something. You know, definitely consider a long-range precision rifle for SHTF. It's definitely something I would consider if I were you. And you know, do your research, do your homework. You know, don't just go with the cheapest thing or the first thing that, you know, you see. It's better to invest a little bit of money and make a custom rifle than it is to save a little bit of money and have something that's not that great. You know, custom rifles are a lot better because you know, the barrel especially, you know, having a custom barrel is going to be a lot better than a factory barrel. Like, you know, the Krieger, I'm going to have a Krieger barrel, and the Krieger barrels are cut rifled, and cut rifling is the most accurate way to make a barrel, and you know, they're known for their accuracy. So, you know, having a custom barrel and custom components, it really helps you build the best rifle that you can. And that's what you want to do. You know, you want to have, especially when you're shooting at long distances, you know, out to 1,000 yards, you want to have every advantage that you can have. You know, you don't want to have a poorly built rifle with cheap components, because once you get out to further distances, it's going to work against you, and you don't want that. You want everything to work in your favor. So, you know, that's pretty much it. I'm going to also put a bipod here. It's got the double swivels. I'm going to put a bipod on the front, and you know, I still have to get a scope for it. I got a bunch of stuff that's going to be done. I'm going to have the barrel threaded for a muzzle brake. I already ordered the muzzle brake, so that should be coming in soon. And you know, I'll do an update video when I get the muzzle brake. And I'll keep you guys posted every step of the way. This is going to be like a series, and you know, I hope you guys enjoy you know, watching me build my rifle, and I hope you guys stay with me on my journey to building the ultimate, you know, SHTF long-range precision rifle. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys, you know, enjoy my videos. You know, give me suggestions on what kind of videos you want to see, so I know what to make. If I'm making videos that don't interest my viewers, then, you know, I want to make stuff that interests you guys. So, you know, put some suggestions in the comments and let me know what you want to see, whether it's related to this rifle, if you want me to see me doing something with this, or if you want to see me do something else, you know, different areas of SHTF, let me know. And you know, hit the thumbs up button, you know, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, if you're not a subscriber. And you know, don't forget, I have my live streams every Friday night, and you know, check those out. They're always really fun. Live streams are always really fun, so join me on the live streams every Friday, and you know, catch up on some of my videos. I've made a ton of videos on different prepping and survival topics. There's so much content on my channel. I've, you know, put a lot of content out. So, you know, if you ever have time and, you know, you're bored, feel free to binge, you know, on all my stuff. You know, watch my different playlists. I have a whole bunch of playlists. So check it out, and feel free to, you know, enjoy the content. And thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for supporting my channel. All the people out there that are regular viewers and regular commenters, you know, I really appreciate that. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, and God bless.